Assalamualaikum everyone. So we'll wait for another like 3-4 minutes. This is 7:29 and our time is 7:30. We'll be starting in 4 minutes so that everyone can join. And hope my voice is loud and clear to everyone. You can raise your thumb just to let me know that you can hear. It's also a ritual of webinars that we are doing right now. So thank you. Is also here. We'll just take 2-3 more minutes. And then we'll start it formally. I think we should start. This is 7:32, so we committed 7:30 start of the webinar. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you everyone for joining. So I'll just let you know that why we are doing this webinar. I'm Naveed Iftihar. I'm co-founder of atomcamp. So atomcamp had this conversation with Ministry of IT and Telecom. That we really need to raise awareness about artificial intelligence and how it is going to impact different fields. So we've started this new series that atomcamp and Ministry of IT and Telecom will be doing almost fortnightly, this webinar series, sometimes every week. So our idea is that how we can bring experts from across the world and we can talk what's happening in the economy, what's happening in the world, and how our youth, our companies need to upskill themselves, how they need to adapt. So this is the objective of this webinar. So this is the first webinar, and there are many, upcoming webinars that we've planned. And in the next webinars, there are 3 experts. One will be joining us from Google. All of them are joining from Silicon Valley. One is joining from Google, another one from Amazon, and the third one from Microsoft. So we'd love to hear from all these leaders who have been working in this field, what's happening in the world, and how Pakistan's youth should prepare itself. And second, Ministry of IT and Telecom has also initiated many projects and plans to support the youth and the companies working on these fields. So the idea is also share those plans and programs frequently with you so that you can take benefit of it, as well as you can, just understand more, provide your feedback. So that is the purpose of this webinar series. So today's topic that we are going to discuss is actually there is a lot of discussion happening these days, whether AI is going to take my job. And recently, particularly for software engineers. So today's webinar is more focused on what is happening in software engineering, how AI has just joined this momentum of software development, and also what is the job market, what kind of skills are now required and expected from software engineers. So recently there was they're recently on Financial Times, New York Times, they've written, obviously that's popular journalism, sometimes they exaggerate things, but they've written many pieces that, software engineers are finding it difficult to find jobs. In the US, from top universities, they are unable to find jobs. And there is also, the unemployment rate among university graduates is also very high. So considering this, because we want to train, we want to upskill our workforce for the global market, even if they are working for Pakistan, I think many of them already are providing services to the global, community. So for today's seminar, we thought that to bring someone who is deeply involved and whose career role have been in the engineering side. So we have Mr. Irfan Ahmed with us. Thank you, Irfan, for joining us. So Irfan has worked in engineering roles with Microsoft, with many other leading tech companies in Silicon Valley. So software engineer by heart and by day and night, passion for software engineering, and someone who has a close eye on what's happening in AI and at the intersection of AI and software engineering. So that is just a brief introduction. Irfan will tell more if he wants to share more about his experience himself and about this topic, its importance. So what we are going to do that we'll have like 20 minutes presentation by Irfan. And after that, probably, sometime Federal Minister for IT and Telecom will also join. She will share her ideas and perspectives, what they are doing. And then after that, we can have questions from your side. You can write questions in chat. I'll pick up a few questions and then I will, share with Irfan and he will be answering. Some of the questions, we may not be able to answer all of the questions, but we will note them down and we will try to note down your name and everything. And if there is any question that is unanswered in this webinar, we'll try to send an email to you with the perspective of speaker on these things, from the atomcamp side, or from Ministry of IT and Telecom. So with that introduction, I will request Irfan to start his talk. Over to you, Irfan, and welcome again. Thank you for joining. Looking forward to learning from you.
Thank you very much, Naveed. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you for having me. I'm pretty excited to be speaking to you all and also quite humbled and honored. I just want to make sure because do I have 20 minutes or do I have a bit more than that to speak?
So we can have 20 to 25-minute presentation and then we can take questions. Yeah.
All right, because I geared for a bit longer, but I'll do it accordingly.
Okay.
That's cool. That's good to know. Thank you. So let me first share the presentation so that's actually here, you guys. Slideshow. There we go. Perfect.
Yeah, it's visible. We can see your presentation.
All right. Thank you. Yes. So yeah, my name is Irfan Ahmed. I am a software engineer and I am also the tech co-founder of an AI startup, which is based here in Islamabad called DeepFind. We're actually building a privacy-focused AI search engine, similar to Perplexity and ChatGPT, with just a two-person team at this point. But the idea is that it's really privacy-focused because this is something that is really in people's minds these days, with AI also being able to sift through so much information and data. So to have peace of mind that your data is secure and safe and that it's yours, and we don't plan to sell it or to surveil you or track you or anything. So think of it as kind of like Pakistan's own Perplexity, hopefully. And I do urge you to try it out. Now, I've shamelessly promoted this, so I'm going to get to the actual presentation. So just a brief history about my career. I used to work before this at a healthcare startup called Tilda Research, which was based in the US. And I was responsible for building out their engineering team and their initial patient registration and recruitment platforms, as well as helped out with their agile methodology. Before that, I was working at Microsoft in Seattle, and this is like from 2012 to 2017. But I want to make a point that between these jobs, I actually, when I quit, I took some time off. And this is something important because I want to highlight that for you guys as well. So when I quit in 2017 for Microsoft, I kind of was no longer satisfied with what I was doing. I wanted to do something else. I was also disgruntled with the tech industry for certain reasons. And I didn't work for 2 years from 2017 to 2019. And in that time, I actually kind of discovered other aspects of me. I really like to write. I have a very artistic, creative soul in me. So I joined an artist residency in Morocco. And for 5 months, I was like living there and writing and doing other things apart from coding. But I will expand on a bit more later. And then I also joined some volunteer initiatives while I was here in Islamabad. One of them, which I'm currently leading, which is called Panch Mele. It's a civic advocacy group, and we spread awareness about not to litter, and we set the example by actually going out and cleaning places ourselves. So when I joined Tilda as well, I left that after 4 years back in 2023. And that was partly because I felt that the company's direction was not really going in what I felt was right. And ethically, I felt, and then I also was feeling burnout. And this is something also very important to address. I mean, we don't really talk about burnout as often, and although it's a very common for people to actually really experience in our industry. So I'm hoping that what we're going to talk about is trying to, hopefully, inshallah, we'll address how to relate to all these things, as well as with how AI is going to be affecting us and how we can deal with it. So I'm going to attempt to paint a picture where we're headed, but I have to be honest that, it's not really clear because everyone has opinions, and, no one is an oracle here. I'm only attempting to read between the lines of what's happening in the industry as well as in society, and just presenting like a particular view, my view in particular, of what it could be like. So do take it with a grain of salt. Reflect on it, however. I'm not going to conjecture what's going to happen in 2027 or 2047. I think people talk about like the singularity, event. But let's kind of try to stay focused on what we can do right now. It is uncharted territory, and many people make this analogy that it's kind of like the Industrial Revolution or the Silicon Revolution, and that mechanization and computerization is kind of similar to what AI is going to do, but I do feel it's a little bit different. And we do tend to fear this change because as humans, we're really used to just being things being, the same. We're used to repetition in a way. But I want us to acknowledge that because we don't really know truly what's going to happen, that is the first, in my opinion, proper step, because then we can leave this hubris of, I know what's going to happen, and rather, with both curiosity and caution in balance, step into this unknown. And I don't have to introduce AI to you. I'm sure you guys are already using quite regularly in a daily basis, whether you're asking questions, you're searching for things, maybe even asking to write your code, or to like speed up your development. So instead, what we're going to really focus on is, what kind of skills as software engineers that you can own and develop, and how you can adapt and adopt AI, and what are the challenges and what are some of these implications that AI is going to have in the workforce and in society at large. So, I mean, AI is really it's already pretty much affecting a lot of aspects of our society. Our jobs are being affected, our governance styles are being affected, our politics, our media, it's quite pervasive. And it doesn't really stop there. So the Pandora's box is kind of really being opened. And it's important that when we look at how we navigate this, we shouldn't just be looking at it from a technical point of view, but also from an ethical and compassionate point of view. Because in the end, people's lives, even our lives, are actually going to be affected by this. I lost my mouse. Yeah. So I do want to preface that this is probably the only part. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yes, I will slow down my speaking. Thank you for pointing that out, Irtaza. One of the things I want to point out is this is the only part of this talk that I asked AI to give me an answer. Everything else I actually wrote myself or thought about myself. And this is because, like, I mean, careers, I don't want to give you like prescriptions that this is what you should be thinking of, but at least we have some idea of where things are, headed. One of the things, one of the job careers that are going to open up are like in AI ethics. I mean, people are already really talking about AI ethics. How do you make systems which are fair and transparent and unbiased? You're also going to have model training. So right now, a lot of the models which are being trained, like by OpenAI or DeepSeek or Grok or so on. I mean, whether it's in the West or it's in China, but we might also hopefully, and I do hope that in the future we start seeing models being trained, in even regions of our world, and they're more contextualized, to our culture, to our languages. It could probably like do jufte, for example, so that kind of stuff would be like another aspect of jobs that, we can kind of see. Oversight roles is basically where AI is being monitored, so we know why it's making decisions. This is especially important in spaces where it's being deployed in law enforcement, in the military, in the military battlefield, or so on. And even though I disagree with these applications, these are becoming realities, and so oversight will be important because sometimes decisions are made by AI which are questionable, and unless we know why they happen, people can actually get harmed by that. Personalization designers is another aspect. It's just the ball of making AI more personal towards you. So there definitely are new opportunities, new jobs that are going to arise, but then there are also definitely certain white collar jobs, especially those which are easily automatable, that will kind of disappear or either transform or disappear. And some people feel like certain developer roles will also kind of be affected by this. And I do believe that, yes, that is possible. That is true because AI can do pretty much, it can code for us. I'm using it quite regularly to even develop DeepFind, and it really helps. But at the same time, it can't write perfect code. It works in some cases, but at the same time, sorry, I just saw that you wanted me to speak Urdu. I actually wrote this in English, but I can try to shift this in Urdu if that would help. Okay, yeah, it is. Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, I mean, the code that we build with AI, it can definitely write almost as good as us, even better than us, but it can't write sophisticated, complex systems yet. And I think, that will progress over time. So we'll kind of see over time how these LLMs kind of work. But what I really want to focus on is how can we think better about using AI, and how can we grow more empathetic towards building these systems. So in other words, how do we combine our aql and how do we combine our qalb in one place? So I want to focus on software engineering in two ways. One of them is that you're no longer just a coder. I remember when I was in university, we really were just like focused on coding, on algorithms, on data structures, and all these things. And it would never really was made clear how it would actually be in production. It was only once I was actually working that I learned about version control systems and uh, testing infrastructure and deployments, and and so on. And this is something I think which is going to be pivotal to become a software engineer for the future, is not just being a coder, but actually having a testing understanding, being able to write good so that you can actually do documentation, build architecture, understand architecture. Obviously, version control systems, these are just like this norm of software engineering, but also things like handling tasks, understanding agile methodology, being able to not only create tasks, but estimate tasks. Some of these things will definitely be made easier with AI. I'm going to bring up ahead, but other aspects is also understanding how to deploy your code. I'm not aware of how you are being taught in school and universities with regards to these things, but in case you're not aware of these, I mean, these are some things that you can definitely start looking into and understanding, because I never learned this when I was in university. Deployments, how do you build your systems? How do you create a continuous integration, a continuous deployment environment? So in other words, where your code gets checked in, it gets tested automatically, gets deployed into, especially if we're talking about cloud infrastructure, it gets deployed into the cloud automatically, and it's ensured that it's working, functioning correctly because it's gone through all these tests, all automatic. So these are some of the aspects that are going to be essential for being a software engineer, because whether you want to start your own startup or you want to be part of other startups, these are essential skills to have. Some of the other things I think are also important to note is like infrastructure, what kind of services you can actually use to deploy your code. I know I'm talking a lot about cloud infrastructure. I mean, that is really my forte. That's my skill set. So for Android development, for iOS development, for apps, I mean, you guys have your own paradigms, frameworks. So I will leave that to someone else. But at least for cloud, I can speak about these, how it's really important to know what is out there so that you leverage the correct service to deploy your stuff. Whether there's fly.io, there's Versal, that's what we use at DeepFind. It's great. I mean, it's connected to GitHub directly. Our code is directly deployed when you push a branch out. So it's already all automated, so you don't have to automate some of the things yourself. There's also Netlify. So yeah, so this is kind of like this pyramid I'm talking about. You're writing code as its foundation, but you have these other core practices of testing and documentation, version controlling, understanding how to manage your tasks, even though someone else might do it for you. But it's important that you understand tasks, because you also need to push back when your project manager or your team lead or whatever is being unreasonable towards you and being like, we need this tomorrow, and you're like, no, this is 2 weeks worth of work. So this is kind of necessary to have. And then build tools, Docker. I think Docker is like amazing. Also, something I learned in my last role at Tilda. It basically just is like a way you can create an image of all your requirements, all your dependencies, and your software that you're deploying in the cloud. And then you can take that image and apply it one place or the other, and it will just work. So you don't have to reconfigure this computer for that specific deployment, for example. Now, I was talking about how AI will definitely help with some of these things. At this point, test case generation. It's important that you know how to write tests. It's important that you think from a testing framework as well, because that is how you will write quality code. And that is essential because that builds trust in both you as a, let's say, if you're a service provider, you're being contracted somewhere, and it builds trust in the service that you're building. If you're building your own product, if it's buggy all the time, people will stop using it, or people will stop wanting to work with you. So I think testing is important and incorporate that, but it's also annoying to write tests all the time because you want to write the code. And there are ways of writing tests before code. There's a behavioral driven design development, for example, that puts tests before coding. There are all these different paradigms, but now you can actually use AI. You can give your code and say, hey, write tests for me. So it reduces your load of actually having to do more work. And while you can focus on making sure that you write code, which is actually working correctly and covers all the use cases. Documentation is the same thing. You can really benefit from that. And documentation is important because new people who join in your team, they need to understand the system, and you can't just rely on people going through code. You need to see architecture designs to get a bigger picture. You need to have other kinds of documentation for even non-technical people in order for them to understand the systems. So yeah, just putting it out there. You also have what I'm referring to as in situ and ex situ development, basically AI within your IDE, within your development environment. So whether you're using VS Code with Klein or with GitHub Copilot or with something else, it's actually transforming your code for you. There's also actually integrated environments that already have AI like Cursor and Windsurf. I mean, you have to have a subscription, I think, in most cases for all of these, but it really helps like speed up your developments. And then there are also the ex situ, so in other words, not within your environment, but outside. So you just use ChatGPT, the free version. You can use Grok, Claude, or whatever. That's kind of what I do right now. I just tell it that, okay, this is what I'm looking for, or hey, can you fix this? And then it returns me the code and I bring it back into my IDE. It's a little bit slower, but for me, it works because then I look at the code as well. And even though I'm copying and putting it over, I'm still looking at it and be like, okay, how is this working? What is this doing? So, and I mentioned CI/CD pipelines already, but that's something that I think maybe in the future, AI most likely will also start managing. So student advice. Okay, I have a few more minutes, so I'm going to kind of breeze through this because there are some other things I want to talk about. Don't use AI, not yet, please. Learn how to code, learn your data structures, learn your algorithms, understand how coding work for a couple of years. Use AI as a tool, maybe to learn about other things. Like I said, the deployment mechanisms, or like CI/CD pipelines, what are those? How do you build those? How to deploy to cloud infrastructure, these kinds of things. Maybe ask about certain code if you're unclear about it, but don't copy paste, please, because it is going to ruin your ability to actually cognitively think about how to solve problems. I feel comfortable using it now after, even though I resisted using it for a few years. And that's because I didn't want to become a crutch for me. So yeah, just take your time and don't fall into that rut of, okay, AI will do this for me. Learn all these things before you can actually practice it. That's what I would say. For mid-career engineers, I have a little bit more advice, which is use it, embrace it. Yeah, copy paste, but also tinker with the code. Don't just blindly take it and be like, I'm done. Look at it, understand it. Even right now, like I copy paste in my friend, my business my business co-founder. He's like, yeah, let's just use AI and just build all this stuff out. And I'm like, yeah, but I also want to write the code as well. I want to do some of it myself because it keeps my skills up, and it also kind of keeps me in check. One of the things I do recommend is that it really helped me learn this new paradigm. So we build on React and TypeScript, and I've never done this before. I'm not even a full stack developer. I'm a backend developer. But the code base existed already from a previous founder. And I took it and I started building it, and I started asking questions from AI to help me increase some of the features or whatever. And over time, I've gotten an understanding, a better understanding of React, how it works, and TypeScript. I won't say I'm a guru at it, but I'm slowly, gradually getting better at it. And I think it does help using AI to this task in this way. Some of the other things I really would like to stress upon, which are seemingly unrelated, are soft skills. Learn how to write. I know that sounds weird and seemingly antithetical, but learn how to write because then you can explain what you're doing. You can, and it's kind of in tandem. It's connected to speaking up, being able to vocalize. As software engineers, we think that we're introverted, so let's just stay in our little bubble and not just stay quiet. But it's really important to speak out because it helps us push back, especially in situations where there are unreasonable deadlines happening, or when there's seemingly unethical practices that we feel, or other reasons. And it helps us break us out of our shell and makes us more confident in both what we're actually building as well as in why we're building these things. Analytical skills, build these, do a lot of reading. Don't just take for granted what someone tells you to do. Look at it, understand the work, and say, why am I doing this? Why am I doing it this way? Both technically, but also from an ethical perspective. Is this really good that what I'm being asked to build? Because the social and ethical perspective of tech, we don't really talk about this on a daily basis, which we should, because whatever we build actually affects people's lives in the millions. And so if we aren't going to think about how something could be disastrous for someone or could negatively impact someone, then I feel that we're not doing a good job. AI can actually also help. Moving to another thing, AI can actually also help with research, like searching for bugs, like issues that you find in a certain library, finding libraries that already exist that do certain things so that you don't reinvent the wheel. There's these Reddit forums, there's Stack Overflow. I used to use these a lot, but now I just go to ChatGPT. I'm like, I have this issue. What is this? And then it'll say, give me all these potential options, and then I can see, where the sources are. I can go to the original place as well and see if that helps me solve my issues. And let your hobbies and your interests define you and grow you. So in other words, don't just become stuck to just being a software engineer. Because we're building systems which are impacting other people's lives, then we should also take responsibility in how it affects them. So if we learn more about the world by reading about things, by reading history, philosophy, religion, literature, it enhances our horizons. And I can say that for a fact because even though I'm a software engineer, when I studied at LUMS, I also took a lot of humanities courses. And I feel that really shaped the way I think about technology, and which is why I'm also I stress so much about the ethical implications of artificial intelligence and technology. So learn to become like this whole holistic self, dive into your interests. You like music, you like fashion, you're interested in cybersecurity, go into it, understand it, learn about these things so that that can actually both be a motivator for you to maybe build solutions, as well as to kind of like inform how you approach your day-to-day in coding. So just as an example, when I was in Marrakesh, I mentioned that I was doing this artist residency, and I thought that I had thrown coding away. I was done with tech, and then I realized I started missing it. And so I kind of blended my love for storytelling in this art form with programming, and I built this this Windows app that basically was like this choose your own adventure audio game, and it was called Conscience, ironically, and it was like this AI conscience that would speak, that would like talk to you and ask you if you want to listen to news while you're walking through your house and getting ready for work, and it would kind of control you so that you are environmentally conscious, so you don't like use the shower for too long, or you use the bus instead of driving to work. And I was kind of like just exploring what AI could also become in this through this project. But the idea being, I kind of blended my love for storytelling and writing and games with my coding and built this thing out. I know I'm slightly over time, but I just want to quickly kind of go over this ethics aspect because it's really important. I spoke about this before as well in 2018, and I'll give some examples of where technology can really impact and affect people's lives also negatively. Back in the 1980s or 1990s, there was a radiation therapy machine which was being built in Canada called the Therac 25, and they made it into, like, they put software to kind of control it. There was a bug in the software which actually caused radiation doses of 20,000 times the amount to be given. That's how much it was being given to the patients. I mean, most of them died, unfortunately. Someone had it in their ear and they heard a pop. They lost their hearing, and then it got even worse. And that was just because of a bug in the software. You might have heard of these Boeing 737 Maxes, which were crashing back in, I think, 2018. That was also buggy software. It was causing the plane to go down instead of like staying stable, and that was because you were using software to stabilize the airplane rather than mechanical parts. You have other ethical implications where self-driving cars like Tesla would, if it crashes into someone because of a bug and someone dies, who is responsible for it? We don't ask these questions because we think that we're away from these things. But as engineers, we should be, just like how medical doctors take the Hippocratic Oath, that or like engineers, at least in Canada, I'm not sure where else. In Canada, they take this oath where they're going to build structurally safe and sound bridges and buildings and so on. We also need to take that responsibility. There's other spaces of surveillance with AI that's kind of coming up, where biases are kind of coming into the surveillance. There was a police department in the US which was using surveillance technology to prevent crime, and it sounds good on paper, but they were ending up replicating the same biases that police officers had. So they were jailing and checking more African Americans, and the reason was because the AI that was built on that same biased data. So that's something we also have to realize and recognize, that AI is not actually unbiased. Because it's a computer, it doesn't mean it's neutral. It's actually going to be baked even more with our prejudice if we don't have more diverse data, more diverse training sets, a more diverse knowledge kind of being put to it. So technology can be neutral. AI, I argue, is not neutral. But how we use it, first, how we build it is up to us. So it's up to our morality, up to our ethics. and then how it's how it's trained and how it's deployed. Okay, I'm really trying to run through here. So just to kind of give you a little bit of an imagination, I want you to think of some things that we could develop here in Pakistan locally, like a Hakim AI, where there's like traditional Unani medicine with modern medicine, and kind of helps either Hakims kind of come up with diagnoses and give alternative medication or alternative medical therapies to people here. I'm also thinking of more contextualized ways of developing these apps, where rather than actually blindly taking UX, which is just this minimalist Western style, what if our UX was more inspired by truck art or Musavri, like the miniature paintings of the Mughal Empire, or from Ajrak or Jali work, or is it Kashkari, the blue tile work from Multan. So these are the things I want you guys to kind of also think about, because yes, it's easy to like become an engineer and say, let's go abroad. I did that. I know I did that. And I know that I came back because I didn't feel like that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be here to actually try to find ways of building things here for people. Even if we build things on a global scale, but also on a local scale. And yes, Pakistan has lots of challenges, but no one gets a silver platter to like fix things. We have like everyone struggles through things. Look at ED, he didn't build the network overnight. It took years of dedication and took years of like effort and going against the tide. So I urge you guys, all of you, it's easier in numbers if you come together and unify together. So try to not run away from here. I know it's compelling, but if we stick together to formulate better ways of being for the industry and for our country, we can actually try to move the needle. So one of the things I would like to call you guys is, combine, like come together, form unions, foster collaboration, work together. Don't be afraid that someone else is also building something similar to you. Use that as inspiration and to create your own, like to be more creative. Don't just wait for people to change. Don't wait for the government to change things for you. Vocalize yourselves, come out to speak about these things. Let's not wait for someone to change things, but rather let us steer that change. And that is by coming together. We can direct the focus of, what the industry should be focusing on here, what the investors should be focusing on, and what the government policy should be. We should really be vocalizing these things and really trying to build a better infrastructure for ourselves, as well as a better outcome. So, and just I'm going to finish this off. It's important for the ministry and for the government to really think about how can we embolden our young developers, and I think about Silicon Valley without its problems, where Silicon Valley, a lot of these people were just given so much money to just build things, whatever was coming to their mind, they're like, yeah, I want to build this. They're just given that. That's something that we need to really build here. How to attract investors, not just from foreign countries, but even locally. How to encourage our investors locally to say, no, let me invest in our local industry here, so that these kids can actually build what they want to build. And yeah, I could go on and on. So I think I'll just kind of stop here. So I'll leave it to the floor, and Naveed Saab, you can take it from here.
Yeah, thank you, Irfan. I think that's a wonderful advice, and particularly what I liked about that in this age of AI, then software engineers' purpose is not just to learn coding and do coding. It is very important to be involved in deployment, and also the way you've raised understanding the infrastructure, product experience, building trust about your product. I think these are all things which are very important. And especially like the way you've described that the coders do not mean just doing the code. They need to contribute to building the society, and particularly the way you've highlighted that the software engineers, we need to build an AI ecosystem, a technology ecosystem in our own country. So I think that's a wonderful advice. And obviously, whatever Irfan has shared, I also want to give you even what I'm saying, what Irfan is saying, again, building on Irfan's argument, build this capability to challenge, these thoughts. Some others can come up with other arguments, with other sort of ideas, and then you need to have this capability to analyze it. Like, I'll just give you one example. Irfan mentioned about driverless cars, and some people just say, we will never get driverless cars because they'll hit people. And that's not the question that Irfan was highlighting. It's more about ethical question. But in today's world, who is doing all these accidents? Whether AI is going to do more accidents or less accidents. So that's also something we need to see. And I think the way Irfan has mentioned about the testing, that it has really become easier testing, finding bugs, and this is where the software engineers can use that. And when we say that software engineers are losing jobs and they are not finding jobs, so my hypothesis is that this world is very different now. It's not just enough to be a software engineer. You need to have a domain knowledge, understanding, like you want to work in the agriculture sector. Understand the agriculture sector, what problems are there, what problems I can solve. You want to work in urban design. You want to work in mobility. So your job is not today because a software engineer, and I think in coming days, software engineers are going to become product managers. They are going to become UI, UX person, so everything, because software is your capability. So when I see some software engineers are making it their weakness actually. So this is your strength. You understand the logic, you understand the programming, and now add some experience, add more thinking capability, communication. I talk to so many companies in Pakistan, and the issue that they raise, they hire software engineers, except 3 to 4 universities, and the next day they take a software engineer to their client meeting, and the software engineer cannot introduce himself or herself. And then talking to clients, talking to about requirements, discussing ideas, challenging them, that all requires very good communication. So that time has gone. Then where software engineer's job was that, write this code and send it to me, and then I'll do everything, and 10 other people will do something. So I think this is where we need to build this momentum. So I think the federal minister has joined. Ms. Shaza Fatma is here. She's the federal minister of IT and telecom. We've started this series to build awareness, to build skill set in partnership with Ministry of IT and telecom. And what we really want that, Ministry of IT has also started many initiatives to upskill the workforce, to help the company. So we want to hear from the minister about her ideas and the way she's planning to do things for the youth, for the workforce and companies. And after that, we can take few more questions that Irfan can answer. So Madam, if you have joined, you can share your thoughts.
Ji, thank you so much, Naveed Saab. Apologies, I was traveling. Actually, I'm still on the road, therefore no camera. So thank you so much for having this today. I think हमने AI policy आपको पता है पास कर दी, कैबिनेट ने अप्रूव भी कर दी, बट उसकी जो एक्चुअल unless it's implemented in letter and spirit, उसकी it is just a piece of paper. And एक हम बड़े इस चीज के ऊपर कॉशियस हैं कि कोई इस तरह से ना कल को हो कि it's yet another policy without execution. तो उस हवाले से I think that it is extremely important कि हम इस तरह के webinars करते भी रहें और सुनते रहें लोगों को और समझते रहें कि what is it that our people want, what is it that the industry wants, and उस हवाले से हम so that we can also tailor our plans, our policies, programs according to it. So once again, I would want to thank everybody who's present here. तो हमारा जो मैं आपको क्विकली बता दूं, पॉलिसी के 6 पिलर्स हैं. आई एम श्योर यू नो यू हैव गॉन थ्रू देम. उसके अंदर एक चीज which is cross cutting and lies at the bottom of all our decision making, especially IT के अंदर, is human resource capital development. और हमारा सबसे बड़ा एक्चुअली एसेट भी यही है, जो सही बात है एज अ नेशन. तो while we may be lacking in many resources, but human resource एक ऐसी चीज है जिसको अगर हमने optimally channelize कर लिया, then there is nothing else that the country needs, right? At the end of the day, nations and countries are people, and right kind of skilled people who are working for the country itself. तो उस हवाले से ये जो है ना कि हमारा जो आज का वेबिनार भी है कि प्रिपेयरिंग द नेक्स्ट जनरेशन डेवलपर्स ऑफ पाकिस्तान, एक चीज हमने फिर जब ये एआई का पिछले 1 साल में थोड़ा ज्यादा हमने पावरफुल उसका इम्पैक्ट देखा है और एक्सपोनेंशियली बढ़ता हुआ देखा है. फिर हमने देखा कि दुनिया में मेजर ले ऑफ्स होना शुरू हो गए. सो इट काइंड ऑफ हिट्स यू एज सून एज इट हैपेंस. तो इस हवाले से हमारा एक जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने भी हमारे, सबसे पहले तो मैं बताना चाहूंगी कि एसओपीज पूरे चेंज कर दिए और केपीआईज बदल दिए. So now when we talk about training and we budget for training, we're not actually budgeting for training, we're budgeting for employability. अब हमारा जो केपीआई है वो ये नहीं है कि हमने कितने बच्चों को ट्रेन किया है, अब हमारा केपीआई है कि उन ट्रेंड बच्चों में से कितने बच्चों को नौकरी मिली है. So that's one. The second important SOP that has been made mandatory is के हर पब्लिक फंडेड प्रोजेक्ट की थर्ड पार्टी मॉनिटरिंग और ट्रेसर होगा. So which will keep telling us कि whether what we did was right or wrong, so that we can keep improving and evolving those policies. So ये तो दो हो गए मेजर SOP changes जो हमारी उसके अंदर आए हैं. एक जो हमने इम्पोर्टेंट चीज की है वो ये की है कि हमने हमारा टोटल जितना भी ट्रेनिंग का बजट था उसमें हमने देखा है कि हम एआई की ट्रेनिंग्स को किस तरह से इनकॉर्पोरेट कर सकते हैं. सो फॉर एग्जांपल, डिजी स्किल्स का जो हमारा प्रोग्राम जो इग्नाइट रन करता है उस पर 3 लाख बच्चा एट एनी पॉइंट ट्रेन हो रहा होता है. अभी 1 अगस्त को शुरू हुआ है. अब हमने हर डिजी स्किल के, रिगार्डलेस ऑफ व्हाट स्किल यू आर ट्राइंग टू लर्न ऑन डिजी स्किल्स, विच इज अ फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट प्रोग्राम, हमने उसके साथ हर किसी के साथ एक कंपोनेंट आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस का रख दिया है कि कैसे हमने प्रॉम्प्ट्स यूज करके जो है वो अपनी प्रोडक्टिविटी को हम बेहतर कर सकते हैं. तो इस हवाले से अब जिस तरह हमारी अभी 3 लाख चल रहे हैं, दिसंबर में फिर 3 लाख शुरू होंगे, तो हमारी कोशिश है कि अगले 3 सालों में हम कोई 3-3.25 मिलियन लोग जो हैं इंशाल्लाह इस तरह से इसको बढ़ाते भी जाएंगे, तो इस हवाले से ट्रेन कर दें. इसी तरह से हमारी अभी हुआवे के साथ और गूगल के साथ फॉर एग्जांपल हमारे पास सर्टिफिकेशंस हैं, उनको भी हम मॉडिफाई कर रहे हैं कि ठीक है नॉर्मल सर्टिफिकेशंस तो हैं जो नॉर्मल रेगुलर स्किल्स होते थे, बट हाउ कैन वी एक्चुअली कन्वर्ट मोस्ट ऑफ देम इनटू एआई बेस्ड स्किल्स. क्योंकि अब जो है रिगार्डलेस, एंड दिस इज नॉट जस्ट फॉर टेक पीपल, राइट, दिस इज फॉर अक्रॉस एनीबडी who wants to be employed. So whether you're an architect or a carpenter, whether you're a doctor or a lawyer, हर चीज ऑटोमेशन और आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस में मूव कर रही है. तो अनलेस वी, सो अब हमने बेसिकली इमीडिएटली तो ये करना है कि एक एआई रेडीनेस की असेसमेंट करनी है, अपने एजुकेशन सिस्टम की, अपनी इंडस्ट्री की, अपनी एग्रीकल्चर सिस्टम की. उस रेडीनेस की असेसमेंट पे बेसलाइन के ऊपर हमने बिल्ड करना है कि दुनिया कैसे ऑटोमेट और आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस को इंक्लूड करके अपनी हर चीज, फॉर एग्जांपल अगर पर कैपिटा प्रोडक्टिविटी है वो कैसे बढ़ा रही है, पर एकड़ यील्ड है अगर एग्रीकल्चर की बात करें वो कैसे बेहतर कर रहे हैं, मेडिसिन की बात करें तो प्रिसीजन कैसे. तो उन सारों की एक बेसलाइन रेडीनेस करके अक्रॉस सेक्टर्स we have to ensure that we are bulletproof when it comes to the changes that are happening globally in light of the AI transition that is happening. तो ये एक बड़ा इसमें क्रिटिकल इशू है कि हमने इसको किस तरह से डील करना है. आने वाले 10 सालों के अंदर ये जो हमारे 6 पिलर्स हैं, इनोवेशन इकोसिस्टम है, अवेयरनेस रेडीनेस है, सिक्योर इकोसिस्टम है, ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन एवोल्यूशन है, जिसमें हमने पब्लिक प्राइवेट सेक्टर्स में एक्सेलरेट करनी है एडॉप्शन. एआई इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर बड़ा इंपॉर्टेंट कंपोनेंट है जिसमें हमने जो कंप्यूट पावर है या डेटा सेंटर्स, क्लाउड एआई एनेबल्ड क्लाउड्स हैं, ओपन डेटा सेट्स की अवेलेबिलिटी करना, एआई के हब्स बनाना, सेंटर्स ऑफ एक्सीलेंस बनाना, ताकि हमारे सारे बच्चे जो हैं वो ये जो गवर्नमेंट का डेटा होता है, आप सबको पता है बड़ा मैसिव डेटा है, तो उसको किस तरह से हमने डेटा प्रिवेसी और डेटा राइट, डेटा गवर्नेंस लॉज और प्रोटोकॉल्स फॉलो करते हुए अवेलेबल करना है फॉर आर इनोवेटर्स, आर रिसर्चर्स, आर इंडस्ट्री, सो दैट दे कैन स्टार्ट यूजिंग दैट डेटा फॉर देयर AI बेस्ड इनोवेशंस। तो ये और आखिरी इंटरनेशनल पार्टनरशिप्स है। जाहिर है इस वक्त एट दिस पॉइंट इन टाइम, मैं आपको एग्जांपल देती हूँ, हम सऊदी अरेबिया में थे, सऊदी मिनिस्टर से मैंने बात की, आप भी लीप पे वहाँ थे, तो यही बात हुई कि आपने ग्रॉक के इतने बड़े बड़े कंप्यूटर पावर्स और सिस्टम लगा तो लिए हैं और वो अंडर यूटिलाइज्ड हैं। सो आई आस्क्ड हिम, आई सेड कि हाउ इज इट दैट वी कैन एक्चुअली मेक यूज ऑफ द होल कंप्यूट पावर दैट यू हैव नाउ, बिकॉज एनवीडिया पे हम इस वक्त बैन लिस्ट पे हैं और हमारे और बड़े मसाइल हैं। इट्स ऑल्सो वेरी कैपिटल इंटेंसिव। तो उन्होंने फिर हमें एक दो ऑप्शंस दी जिसमें हम काम कर रहे हैं। उन्होंने कहा फॉर एग्जांपल अगर कोई सऊदी पार्टनरशिप में आता है तो हम उसको आपको सब्सिडाइज कर सकते हैं, स्टफ लाइक दैट। तो नाउ वी आर वर्किंग ऑन अ कंप्लीट, उनके जो NTDP है उसके साथ हम काम कर रहे हैं कि हम कैसे हर साल एटलीस्ट 20, मैंने उनको 20 कहा तो उन्होंने कहा सिर्फ 20 भेजेंगे, तो एटलीस्ट 20 कंपनीज को जो है वो हम वहाँ पे इस तरीके से उस प्रोग्राम में इनकॉर्पोरेट कराएं कि उनके कुछ 17-18 पैकेजेस हैं जिसमें वो आपको आने पे पैसे देते हैं, सेटल होने में हेल्प करते हैं। इफ़ यू एम्प्लॉय सऊदीज दे एक्चुअली गिव यू देयर सैलरीज। तो इस तरह की चीज़ें हैं। तो उसमें फिर हम ये इंटरनेशनल पार्टनरशिप जो है, दिस इज जस्ट वन एग्जाम्पल। चाइना के साथ अभी हम बात कर रहे हैं, टेंसेंट जो है वो कॉन्वर्सेशन में है, अभी हमारे एक डेटा सेंटर में पार्टनर करके आ रहा है। इसी तरह से हम मुख्तलिफ वहाँ पे हाइपर स्केलर से बात कर रहे हैं, हुआवे से हमने बात की है कि वो कैसे पाकिस्तान में अपनी कंप्यूट पावर को और AI इनेबल्ड क्लाउड को हमारे बच्चों के लिए, हमारे लोगों के लिए अवेलेबल कर सकते हैं। सो दीज आर द थिंग्स दैट वी आर वर्किंग ऑन। इसी तरह DCO के साथ मिलके एक मल्टीलैटरल लेवल के ऊपर एक इंगेजमेंट चल रही है कि हाउ कैन वी इनवाइट द राइट काइंड ऑफ ये इन्वेस्टमेंट्स एंड ऑल्सो पार्टनरशिप्स। तो ये कुछ चीजें हैं जो हम अपने तौर पे कर रहे हैं। There's a long list. I don't want to take the whole time, but these are just a few examples जिसके ऊपर अभी हम काम कर रहे हैं। अब इस वक्त जो है अगर हम बात करते हैं कि हमारी ये वापस अगर हम ट्रेनिंग्स के ऊपर आते हैं, तो हमने बेसिकली जो अपना there are two things broadly that the ministry does. One is enabling the industry and the ecosystem, and the other is digital transformation. तो ये दो चीजें हैं जो हम broadly करते हैं। तो जब हम एक्सपोर्ट्स की ही सिर्फ आप ले लें बात करते हैं, तो हमारा जो बेसलाइन है वो ये है कि अगर हम X नंबर ऑफ ह्यूमन रिसोर्स ट्रेन करेंगे जो एवरेज एक सर्टेन अमाउंट पे बिलेबल है, तो हमें वो इंक्रीमेंटल कितना एक्सपोर्ट देगा। दैट्स अ वेरी सिंपल बेसिक आउटलाइन। अगर 1000 बच्चा है वो $100 पे बिलेबल है, तो वो जो है हमारे पास $1,00,000 आता है। उस 1000 बच्चे को अगर मैं अपस्किल करती हूँ और उसकी बिलेबिलिटी जो है मैं उसको 300 पे ले जाती हूँ, तो वही $1,00,000 हमारा $3,00,000 बन जाएगा। उसके साथ मैं 1000 बच्चा और ट्रेन कर देती हूँ तो 6,00,000 हो जाएगा। सो इसको हमने फिर अपनी यूथ की नंबर्स के ऊपर अप्लाई करते हुए हमने एक असेसमेंट की कि हमने कितने बच्चे कितनी देर में किस स्किल पे ट्रेन करेंगे तो उनकी एनुअल बिलेबल उनकी वैल्यू क्या होगी, एंड एज अ कॉन्सिक्वेंस हाउ डू वी कीप इंक्रीजिंग दैट नंबर सो दैट हम अपनी एक्सपोर्ट्स के ऊपर पहुंच जाएं। इस वक्त जो हमें चैलेंज है, आई विल बी वेरी कैंडिड, वो ये है कि अभी तो हमने आपके साथ मिलके ये इंश्योर करना है कि हमारे बच्चों की एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी मेंटेन हो। इंक्रीज पे हम बाद में बात करेंगे। जो पूरी ट्रांजिशन हो रही है इस वक्त, तो मेरा फोकस ये है कि जो बच्चे इस वक्त स्किल्ड हैं उनको हमने अप स्किल और अप टू पेस कैसे रखना है विद दीज इमर्जिंग टेक्नोलॉजीज। सो दैट इज समथिंग दैट वी नीड टू सिट डाउन। थोड़ा सा हमने इसकी ऊपर जो वर्किंग की हुई है, कुछ तो हमने ट्रेनिंग शुरू कर दी है, but on a large level, for a 10-year plan, we have to have a fairly clear roadmap as to how will we ensure कि हमारी इंडस्ट्री भी competitive रहे in light of automation, AI, हमारा एग्रीकल्चर competitive रहे, हमारे बच्चे competitive रहे। ये तीन हमने जो है ना ये एरियाज देखने हैं। So this is what we're very strongly focusing on at this point in time. और अगर मैं स्पेसिफिकली बात करूं सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर्स की और डेवलपर्स की, अब देखें रेडिकल चेंज आ रहा है, दिस इज रेडिकल शिफ्ट। बेसलाइन के ऊपर जाहिर है ये सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियरिंग की किसी एक बेस लेवल की पे जरूरत तो रहेगी. इवन AI is also not going to it will also at the end of the day require somebody to work on it. The problem is not that AI will take away jobs. The problem is that people who know AI will take away jobs. So we have to be those people who know AI, right? So अब इस पूरी सिचुएशन में जो हमारे नए डेवलपर्स आ रहे हैं उनकी एक तो हमें मैं आई मीन कॉन्स्टेंटली इन टच विद HEC कि हाउ कैन वी एक्चुअली डिसरप्ट द सिस्टम एंड जो हमारी इस वक्त की डिग्रीज हैं हम उनको ज़्यादा एम्प्लॉयबल कैसे कर सकते हैं. और ये प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने एक मैंडेट दिया था और उस पर हमने बड़ी एक्सटेंसिव कंसल्टेशन के बाद कुछ चीज़ों पे हम फैसलों पे पहुंचे हैं. दूसरा जो है इस वक्त जो मिड करियर हैं फॉर एग्जांपल सॉफ्टवेयर इंजीनियर्स, वही बात आ जाती है कि उनको हमने किस तरह से कोडर से AI स्ट्रैटेजिस्ट पे मूव करना है. तो अब जो है ना ये बड़ा ज्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट हो गया है. जो मिड करियर इंजीनियर्स हैं इनको आर्किटेक्चर, गवर्नेंस, इनोवेशन इसमें किस तरह से हमने करना है, उनकी जो वैल्यू प्रोपोजिशन है उसमें हमने क्रॉस फंक्शनल लीडरशिप किस तरह से इंश्योर करनी है. हमने अगर आप डेवऑप्स की बात करते हैं किस तरह हमने जो अब देखिए ये सारी टेस्टिंग, स्केजुलिंग, वल्नरेबिलिटी स्कैनिंग ये सारी चीजें जो है वो ऑटोमेट हो गई हैं. तो हमने कैसे इन चीजों को जो है अपने जो हमारे लोग ये काम करते थे उनको रेलेवेंट रखना है. इसी तरह से जो करियर रेजिलियंस है ना वो कंटिन्यूस लर्निंग से आएगी. और ना सिर्फ कंटिन्यूस लर्निंग से मगर हमें हमारे लर्निंग इंस्टीट्यूशंस जो हैं उनमें एजिलिटी लानी पड़ेगी. वी कैन नॉट से कि एक बच्चा 2025 में आज जब यूनिवर्सिटी में जा रहा है तो वो 4 साल बाद एक रिजिड करिकुलम से टर्न आउट होके निकलेगा और वो फिर भी एम्प्लॉयबल होगा. दैट्स नॉट गोइंग टू हैपन. मतलब ये वो एजिलिटी जो है सिस्टम में उसके ऊपर एक थोड़ा सा हम इस वक्त फोकस करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं. अब ये सारी चीजों को एक्चुअली करने के लिए देखिए ये एक नॉन निगोशिएबल बात है इस वक्त AI के जो स्किल्स हैं. इट इज देयर, इट इज राइटिंग ऑन द वॉल. अब इस वक्त तकरीबन जो हमारी मैं कहूँगी कि ये जो टूल्स हैं जो बिल्कुल लो एंट्री जॉब्स के, कोई को पायलट है, कुछ बच्चे ऑफिस मैनेजमेंट कर रहे हैं, मिनट टेकिंग करते हैं ऑनलाइन, इस तरह के छोटे रिमोट वर्क्स करते हैं. तो यहाँ से हमने स्टार्ट करना है कि एंट्री लेवल पोजीशंस में किस तरह कर सकते हैं, मिड करियर में कैसे कर सकते हैं, और फिर सीनियर करियर जो प्रोफेशनल्स हैं उनकी कैसे अपस्किलिंग करनी है. So these are the few things that we're cognizant of, we're focusing on, but इसके अंदर we will have to all work together. Whether it's the government, it is different public sector bodies, हमारा जो private sector है. अब मैं भी कुछ सवाल पढ़ी थी, लोगों ने पूछा हुआ था कि गवर्नमेंट AI टूल्स की या AI इंडिजिनस AI प्रोडक्ट्स की तरफ क्यों नहीं मूव करी. The thing is that, to be very honest, as government, we want to stay out of business. If I start doing these things, I'm going to definitely crowd out the industry. So I have to ensure कि मैं इकोसिस्टम ऐसा बनाऊं कि इंडस्ट्री जो है वो प्रोएक्टिवली उसके लिए वो इकोसिस्टम कंड्यूसिव हो और वो प्रोडक्ट डेवलपमेंट की तरफ मूव करे. आई कैन encourage them, I can fund their trainings, I can create human resource on the supply side, but I don't want to be someone who starts doing it themselves, right? Because that is going to be anti-industry. तो इंडस्ट्री को हमने सपोर्ट करना है, प्राइवेट सेक्टर को सपोर्ट करना है, उनके साथ हम पार्टनरशिप में हैं, उनसे हम यही पूछते हैं कि आपको कौन सा ह्यूमन रिसोर्स चाहिए ताकि हम राइट काइंड ऑफ ट्रेनिंग दें विच इज एम्प्लॉयबल. इसी तरह से एकेडेमिया को जरूरत है कि AI और ML को जो है उनके फाउंडेशनल कोर्सेज अब मैंडेटरी होने चाहिए. कोशिश हमारी ये है कि हम छठी जमात अपवर्ड जो है वो इस्लामाबाद में AI जो है इमीडिएटली इंट्रोड्यूस करवा दें ताकि बेसिक AI के कोर्सेज एंड देयर लर्निंग. AI को लर्न करने के दो पार्ट्स हैं ना, एक तो ये है कि AI खुद है क्या चीज़, तो पहले तो बहुत सारे लोगों को ये सिखाना है और फिर सिखाना है कि इसके यूज केसेस क्या है, कि हाउ कैन यू यूज AI टू एक्चुअली बेनिफिट फ्रॉम इट एंड स्किल योरसेल्फ. और आखिरी जो बात है वो हमारे बच्चे हैं, यूथ है हमारे इस वक्त मैं बहुत इंकरेज करूंगी कि जो ओपन सोर्स AI प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं उसमें इंगेज करें, अपने आप को भी स्किल करने की कोशिश करें. टुडे एवरीबडी वी आर आल्सो एक इतने हम फॉर्चुनेट हैं कि हम एक ऐसे टाइम पे हैं कि लिमिटलेस अपॉर्चुनिटी है. आपको AI खुद सिखा देगा कि वो क्या है, आपको AI खुद सिखा देगा कि आपने उसको कैसे यूज करना है, उस पर कोडिंग कैसे करनी है. हम we're there at your back, मतलब हमने फ्री सर्टिफिकेशंस भी ली, बिग टेक के साथ भी काम कर रहे हैं, खुद भी फंड कर रहे हैं. But then there's a lot of us who can actually spend an hour of their times learning ourselves. अब बिल्कुल बेसिक जो कोडिंग असिस्टेंट्स हैं, कोपायलट है, टैब 9 है, गोस्ट राइटर है, इवन बेसिक असिस्टेंट्स हैं कुछ जिनको आप यूज कर सकते हैं, कॉम्प्लिकेटेड चीजें भी आप सीख सकते हैं. तो अपने लिए पोर्टफोलियो प्रोजेक्ट्स जो हैं उनको बिल्ड करें, अपने आप को अपने आप को स्किल करें, अपने आप को रेलेवेंट रखें. सो वी हैव टू कलेक्टिवली वर्क ऑन दिस. This has to be, जितना बड़ा ये चैलेंज है, this has to be a collective effort where we're engaging अपनी क्या नाम लेते हैं, अपने इंटरनेशनल पार्टनर्स को कोशिश कर रहे हैं कि जितना वो हमें सपोर्ट कर सकते हैं करें. आपको पता है पीएम ने लास्ट ईयर एग्रीमेंट किया था, 3 लाख हुआवे की ट्रेनिंग जो हैं अभी चल रही हैं, उनमें से 100 के अबव हो गई हैं सर्टिफिकेशंस. इधर गूगल से हमने 2 लाख सर्टिफिकेट्स फ्री में लिए हैं. 2 लाख बच्चों को ट्रेन करेंगे, गूगल सर्टिफाई हो जाएंगे. माइक्रोसॉफ्ट की सर्टिफिकेशंस हमने बहुत बात करके निगोशिएट करके फ्री सर्टिफिकेशंस ली, सो दैट वी कैन ट्रेन अ कपल ऑफ 100,000 यंग पीपल और उनकी माइक्रोसॉफ्ट सर्टिफिकेशन हो. तो ये सारी जो चीजें हैं ना, दैट हैज टू, वी आर ट्राइंग टू बेसिकली काइंड ऑफ gain as many people as we engage as many people, as many international partners as we can. We're trying to modify the education system. हम public funding से बच्चों को training में हम massive investment कर रहे हैं, और अब हमें support चाहिए private sector की, civil society की, for creating awareness, media की, और अपने तमाम ये जो youth है, that we have to have this self realization कि हमारी relevance जो है अब वो इन skills के ऊपर होगी. I don't want to say that degrees will become redundant, but I can't say what the situation will be in the next 5 to 10 years. So we have to be very, very, हमें अपनी आंखें खोल के, बिल्कुल हमें, हमारे सामने एक चीज है, आज हम सारे जो यहाँ पे मौजूद हैं, we're very privileged to even have the awareness to be here, because a lot of our citizens do not even have that, right? So ये जो है, it is very critical that we all work together. हम साथ खड़े हुए हैं, नवीद साहब आपके साथ, आपको पता है हम मुसलसल engagement में भी हैं. So this is where we stand right now, and this is where we intend to go forward. So thank you everyone for listening. अब if there's नवीद साहब आप बताएं जैसे अब आगे करते हैं.
जी, thank you ma'am, thank you. I think this is wonderful, and I will request all of you to explore DigiSkills. जो इनिशिएटिव है वहाँ पर आप फ्री एनरोल कर सकते हैं. देयर इज टेक डेस्टिनेशन, जो गवर्नमेंट की वेबसाइट है. दे यूजुअली एडवर्टाइज सो मेनी बूट कैंप्स जो मिनिस्ट्री के प्लेटफॉर्म से हैं. सो फॉलो दीज सोशल्स and be prepared for this future that ma'am has mentioned. And I think, thank you madam, I think especially I would like to highlight the way you collaborate with so many private sector, civil society organization, and this is how the future lies, where we need to engage more. So this is our first webinar. So next 3 webinars are planned. One is from a person from Google, another from Microsoft and AWS. So we are going to bring those global experts, and the way Irfan has actually guided us, we'll continue this conversation. So we have a few questions, so we can take a few questions for Irfan now. And Irfan, there was one question by a student that for a young student, if they have developed an AI startup and they are very young and a new startup, how can they build trust of their clients and consumers on their product? So again, this is something, the way you were mentioning that not only tech skills, you need many other skills as well. But I would like to hear from you, how can we actually, build that trust, and what you would like to guide to young people who are building their own AI startups or any other product at this stage?
I mean, that's really awesome that you guys are doing that. Or even planning to do that. I would highly encourage it. एक चीज है कि this is an issue that even we as a startup right now are facing. How do you actually build trust but also discoverability of your product? Trust का ये है कि both कि what you are building, does it do what it's doing, and does it do it well? And then the discoverability part being, do people know of your product? How do they find out about it? And there are different methodologies, especially with Search engine optimization is one thing. You can try to essentially even ask AI how to do that for you, for your product. But they're also, building social media campaigns, putting out on LinkedIn, on Instagram, putting it out on Reddit forums or other kind of spaces so that people learn about what you're building. Depends on what you're building as well. So I think you should. One thing I actually also find helpful is when you even ask this question of an AI like ChatGPT or whatever, it might even tell you, okay, here are some places that you can actually do, or like promote your thing. So one of the spaces that we were trying to promote our own AI tool were some AI-based pages where you could promote your promote it essentially. I don't know them off the top of my head, but once again, I think search will be better than my memory. So that's one aspect of it, just pitching your ideas, marketing it, because marketing is one actually important aspect. But the other one is also that trust. Okay, like, are you building the thing that actually is good, and does it maintain that quality? And if you're using AI to build out your tool, then it already has some level of quality baked into it because it's going to write good code. But like I said, you want to be adding those tests. You want to be adding some of these better engineering methodologies in place, having proper environments and so on. I mean, this is like a whole like detailed thing that we can actually get into. But if anyone wants to reach out for specific examples or specific details as well, you can actually reach out to me. I think maybe they'll be sharing my LinkedIn. I don't know, unless you guys already have it.
Yeah, thank you, Irfan. So I think one is the technological part, marketing part that Irfan has shared. And obviously these days, this SEO that we used to do, now this is also, and I'm just forgetting that name of the term, that is LLM based SEO. That whether Gemini or, ChatGPT, if I go on ChatGPT, I say, tell me top 10 hospitals, that are in Islamabad. So which hospitals are coming actually? So there are some who are doing gimmicks, and even if they don't have credible, that's also something that when he was talking about more awareness of ethics and all these things, still people are doing such things. Some gimmicks are involved, and they were also involved without AI actually, just in SEO as well. And sometimes people rank themselves, even they do not build actual credibility of their website. So there was a time when actual credibility used to matter more. So, but I would tell you, in this age of tech, this is still very, very important. Your connection with your customers, actually, the trust comes with your connection. If you have like thousands of customers, it will be hard to talk to everyone, but still, engaging with your customers, talking to some of your customers. If you look at, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, they've all become big players now. But when they were building, when they were starting, they all were very, very customer, centric. Still, some of them are not. But I want to say that, the biggest thing is value your customer, and not just with gimmicks. It's the genuine, objective to serve your customer, and also build, your connection with customer. That becomes very, very important, I think. There is another. Yeah,
sorry, I just want to add to that sometimes we tend to think in this day and age that follow the money and everything else will happen. And I think it's the other way around. If you build the product with your heart, which actually you believe in, and you feel like it's, and so you build it well and good, it will attract the people if that's what they're looking for, yeah, the intention should be in the right place. Then everything else will follow. The trust will follow, the money will follow, everything else will follow. But build something intentionally because it is what you believe to be good.
So I generally follow a guy, and I recommend to everyone when people join our boot camp. So I ask them to, study Adam Grant. So Adam Grant is a behavioral psychologist, you can say, organizational psychologist actually. So he has written very good books, Originals, Thinking Again, and just Think Again. So recently, I've seen some of his posts about character. What does mean by character? That if you build your character, so that's again leads to trust. But what does character means? So character does not mean that it's a 9 to 5 job. It's your overall personality development where you have a mission that you will not deceive anyone. You will not mistreat anyone. And with those sort of a values, you build something, and that's obviously another way to win your trust. And I think this is something. So, Saman, you can post your questions. We have another. We wanted to conclude at 8:30, but still we are running over time. So, if you have a couple of questions, you can post some of you, and we can pick up those questions and we can share with Irfan. So, Irfan, meanwhile, this. This software, some of the tools, still many people are, and someone also asked that every day a new tool is coming, and sometimes it's hard to learn about these tools. But still, if software engineers, how can they improve their productivity with AI? And some of that, like you mentioned, Docker, there are other some important tools that you really think some of them that software engineers should explore and work with, like which can help as a co-pilot, like, what kind of such tools that you've used recently?
I mean, it's definitely overwhelming for sure that it's constantly evolving, and then there's also like this notion that, oh, if I don't learn this new thing, I will become irrelevant. One thing I can tell you for sure is no, you won't become irrelevant in a way, because like I said, I didn't work for 2 years and I had the same thought, but then I got back into it. Yes, AI didn't exist then, so that's a different story. Or at least like not to the level that it is now. But I think it's important to note it's not really what tools or what languages you know, but rather the core concepts that you have an understanding of. So I started off when I started working with C# and .NET because I was working at Microsoft. And it was, and that is almost only used in Microsoft, like none of the other companies use it. And so when I left, I was like, oh, will anyone even take me on because I don't know anything else? And then when I got to work with Tilda, they didn't do C#, obviously. They were doing Linux-based work. So Linux, they were working on the Linux environment. They were, it was Ruby on Rails, it was Python. Eventually we started doing Golang. And I learned all of those things on the job. I didn't even have AI at that point. But because I understood this concepts of how to code, and I know we're talking about code and not tooling, but I'm just getting there. Because I understood how to code, I could learn these other languages with ease, and which is why I'm stressing to students that give yourself time to learn these concepts before you actually start relying on AI. It will really be a lifesaver for you. So that said, I think now I also try to keep my cognitive overload to a minimum. So I kind of keep an eye out for things that I feel will benefit me with regards to my programming. So I think you do need to kind of focus yourself a bit. Don't try to grab everything, because A, it's not even helpful. It will also just be very overwhelming, and B, rather become a little bit more focused. So ask yourself the question, what do I really need to learn or know? So right now, because I'm building in Vercel, so it's like this infrastructure service. So I know that I have to pick that up. I have to understand how it functions, even though they handle everything for us. But I need to learn what it's actually doing in order to know what the build mechanism is, what the deployment mechanism is, how does it connect to my code base, as an example. So it's really, it does require a little bit of focusing yourself in the direction of what is really relevant for you. So I'm not sure if that really answers the question. There's no silver bullet, if I be honest.
Yeah, thank you. So there is also another question. I think that's last question, and I also get to know a lot of these questions. People often ask, should I go into a software engineering degree or should I go into an AI degree? And also that many people are scaring that don't do software engineering because it's vanishing. So this is also I generally say that's not the case. It's good to build your software engineering capability and you can build AI on it, instead of just, but still some AI program can be very good. So it really depends on university to university, program to program. But this is all. But I still struggle in answering this question. So Irfan, AI degree or CS degree. So what do you think? And also that this fear that there will be no software engineer required. AI will be doing all of it. So maybe last question that you can answer.
So I do feel, I mean, it depends on what you're really interested in. I know, like, we were trying to think about future proofing our career, but I mean, that's it's a tough one because you're like, who knows, But I would say those people should go into AI and do an AI degree who actually want to work with developing new models, developing new AI systems, and, and knowing how to train, because that's a different field altogether than software engineering, in the sense that because I can't tell you. I mean, sure, I can learn about how to do trainings, but training in AI, but I don't know the actual mathematics of how it kind of figures out these weights and how it determines how to make its own determinations. And if you're interested in that, if you want to understand how you can build these kinds of artificially intelligent systems, I want to be also stress on that artificialness of it, then that is where you should be going. But that's what you should be gravitating towards. Don't say that, oh, I'm trying to future-proof my career, because software engineering is not going to necessarily disappear, because we still need to be building these systems. Someone has to be building the AI systems in the first place. And yes, someone could say in the future, probably AI will be doing this. But then one can also argue that in the future, AI would probably also be training their own AI. So, then we're all just like, oh my God, what do we do then? Maybe then they'll just make money for us and whatever. So I think there's an important aspect of not getting sucked into too much of this fear mongering of what role we should do or whatnot. Do what really feels right to you. If you want to be building systems that leverage AI, and not AI, but just tech systems, that's where you should be going. But if you want to be building AI models and going along those lines, then that's where you should be going. And that's how I would look at it.
Yeah, also, I think that's interesting the way Irfan has phrased it, future proofing. So tell me, this was possible maybe 10, 20 years ago. That's this degree, this particular, because we were also certain about career paths and everything. Doesn't matter what degree you are doing. AI, software engineering, medical, law, everything is, that we don't understand what's going to happen. So future proofing is actually, I often say, it's continuous learning. So if you are eager to learn, you are future proof. Learning in any field and in anything can be your passion. And if you are passionate about something, and that you want to do it, you want to be a teacher, and you learn teaching and you excel in teaching, you want to be, Irfan mentioned Hakeems, you want to be a Hakeem, but you are eager to learn, so then you are future proof. So particularly, this was not as important many years ago, but now it is more important because this knowledge is so much easily available. People expect you to do much more than we used to expect, even from fresh graduates, 10 years ago. So with that, we will conclude this session. I will again thank Irfan for joining us, sharing his perspective. We'll continue learning from him. And we can also do some very, very engineering focused session with him sometime, where we really learn from him deployment as well, the way he mentioned his core skill set. So that is something we learn from Irfan as well. And we are also thankful to IT Ministry for collaborating, for the Federal Minister for joining us. Irfan, do you want to say anything? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, just one more thing, because the last question I felt was a little bit like I would like to bring a highlight, which is what Noman was asking, like what did I learn at Microsoft that I missed
Okay.
at Pakistan? And I think like I want to kind of just highlight that a bit. To be honest, I did not learn as much at Microsoft as I would have hoped, if I'll be truly honest. And I learned more at the startup I worked at Tilda, which was also like based in the US, but I was working for them remotely here. Just really quickly, I'll just highlight this. When you work at these big companies like Microsoft, Google, Amazon, you kind of get lost into like this huge system. And so you're like this little tiny thing doing this little tiny part over here. And then you get really, really laser focused, which is one of the reasons why I was really kind of afraid that when I left, or like that, who was going to take me, because I don't have all this other knowledge, you know. And then I'm looking at all these job descriptions that they say you need to be able to do this. That also, I think I want to be clear for all of you guys, is a little bit misleading. Sometimes job descriptions like put 100 things, but even if you can do, let's say like the core, like 7, 8 of those, okay, maybe not 100, but like 10. And if you could do at least 4 or 5 of those, you are still eligible. You know, don't think that, oh, I can't apply for this, for example. So that's a quick thing I wanted to mention. And then it was at the startup at Tilda, because I had to take a lot of these new roles. Not only was I coding and testing, which was all that I was doing when I was at Microsoft, and some DevOps work, which I did not like. But I also had to do deployments. I also had to do building out this continuous integration and deployment mechanisms with my colleagues' help. I was learning how to build data pipelines, which I'd never done before. So I think this is where it's important that when startups are really helpful, because you get to, I mean, they're a bit high pressure, but then you also learn a lot of things. And if you're doing it yourself, that also is great. So yeah, I just want to kind of like touch upon that for people. Oh, sorry, I didn't answer the question of the core principles, but you know what? Another time. It's been too long. I think.
So thank you, Irfan. I think it's a good answer in a way to understand that when you're working for big companies versus small, you have to do multiple things. You are interacting with customers, seeing the impact directly. But then you get to get the brand actually you work with, ex-Microsoft, ex-Google, all these things matter in this world. So anyhow, so thank you everyone for joining, and it was a pleasure learning from Irfan, and thank you for joining. Keep an eye on atomcamp.com for our next webinars coming soon, and our socials, and we'll be sharing more webinars announcements soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Hafiz.